meeting. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Entertain a motion that we begin.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll start with a moment of silence. Please join us in that, after which Councilmember Howe will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Please rise.
Eagle was facing the wrong way. All right, thanks for that. First item tonight, recognition of employees. Chief Park, if you'll bring up our newest police officer, Ashton Roylance.
Hello, this is Ashton Roylance. He is our new police officer. He has just finished the academy recently, and he is currently in his FTO program, which is going to take 10 weeks to complete. So this is Ashton.
Wouldn't take long if you put him with someone else.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
maybe we'll learn something from him.
We met on a couple occasions. Really happy to have you, Ashton. You're going to be great. So
Can he tell us a little bit about him?
yeah, introduce yourself a little bit more than what Chief
Yeah.
said.
I mean, just to repeat, I'm Ashton Roylance. I'm local. I grew up in North Ogden, so I knew a lot of the South Ogden guys at my time at Dillard's, and they kind of pushed me in the direction of being a police officer. I'm really glad that South Ogden was my landing spot. And yeah, just very appreciative for the opportunity. A lot of good people are here, and I'm happy about it.
Okay.
Sweet.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Glad to have you.
He's got a good police officer voice.
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, you do.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right. Are we online tonight? Okay. Next is public comment, but anybody to come and address the mayor, council, and staff. Tell us what's on your mind. Those of you online, we'll give you till 6:15 to make those comments online. Just write public comment and then type in your comment as if you were here. Anybody here want to talk to the council? Just give us your name and what's on your mind, please.
Hi there, my name's Amy Holden, and it's my husband Joe Holden here. We were at the meeting, I think it was just last week, but and presented our hope here anyways with the Planning Commission, and it went pretty well. But just to kind of give you a quick little rundown, we built our home back in 2010. I keep wanting to say 14, but 2010. And we have resided there ever since. We're just down in South Ogden, just right up from the splash pad there, right by the Ogden Athletic Club. But back in 2010, when we built our home, we had a design or a landscape architect help us with our backyard. We had some hopes of putting in a swimming pool. And at the time, we had pulled up the side yard variances and had gone over it with the architect and designed our backyard to hopefully put a pool someday. So we've gone all these years with thinking that it's the 10-yard or the 10 feet side yard variance, and saved up, raised our kids. Our youngest is a senior at Bonneville, and we're hoping to put in a swimming pool for these future grandkids that we've been saving up for. But we just went to go pull the permit, and in 2021, the side yard variance changed from the 10 feet to 15 feet. And after doing a little bit of research, we really couldn't come up with why that was changed. We still actually don't know why it was changed. After asking around a lot. But so we did a little bit of research and pulled up all of the surrounding cities. I should have got my ducks in a row before I came up here, but all of the surrounding cities. And is that something that you guys have? Have you guys looked at that? Mm-hmm. Give me 1 second just to find it. But just to kind of go over, like, Roy was 6 feet, I think. Hold on, give me 1 second. You don't have that on you, do you still?
It's in the packet. The council received a copy.
Yeah, I had my own, but Anna, yeah, she had a really good one. Okay, it's right here. Sorry, that took me a second. I knew I would find it. I found some of it. Hold on, let me just double check. Okay, sorry, it took me a second. So Ogden is 10 feet for the side yard variance. West Point is 5 feet from any property line. Syracuse is 6 feet. North Ogden is 10 feet. Clearfield is 5 feet, Kaysville is 8 feet, Riverdale is 5 feet, and Washington Terrace is 5 feet. So, you know, we came about all of this just hoping that we can possibly change the side yard variance from the 15 feet that it currently is to the 10 feet. And, yeah, hopefully be able to put in a swimming pool. And do you want to get up and say something about I'm putting him on the spot here. But just about, you know, pulling up.
Obviously, I sell real estate in South Ogden. I've been in a ton of backyards in South Ogden. And where it sits right now with 15 feet on this side and 15 feet on the other side, we're limiting what, not only for me, but we're limiting for what other citizens can do with a swimming pool. And I think you're going to see a lot of people with the way interest rates are and people needing to stay in their homes, they're going to want to make their place, you know, add a swimming pool. And the other day I was going through South Ogden, I was looking at different lots, and I was like, I did 30 houses, and out of the 30 houses that I pulled up, the setbacks and the frontage and everything like that for what it would take to put in a swimming pool for these people, only 3 of them could even do it. You know what I mean? In the setbacks at a 15-foot on the side yard setback. And so I just think we're limiting, not only limiting what I can do, but we're limiting other residents. So when we went to the Planning Commission said that they were looking for 6 feet. You guys already all know this stuff, so we're just repeating it. But it would be great if we could just at least get it to where people can enjoy their backyards and do what they want to do with land use, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what Amy and I are shooting for. So I know that it's a big thing to get it changed, but we have gone now to 2 meetings, and I keep seeing these nice ladies, and they're helping me out, getting me through it. So
Good
I
people
appreciate
here.
you guys. Yeah, I
Thanks,
appreciate
Joe.
it. So thanks.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for coming. Okay, appreciate that. That is our discussion later, so we won't necessarily respond at this point, but appreciate you coming, talking about that. Online still has a few more minutes if they want it. Consent agenda, there's 3 items. Approval of our October 1st council minutes. Advice and consent of appointment of Jim Pierce, Susan DeBruin, Lynn Mulhall, and Japhet Gonzalez to the Urban Forestry Commission. We're going to get that back up and running again. We're excited about that. These people have been willing and able and excited to get that going, so that's neat. And then, as traditional, as is tradition, to council, our regularly scheduled first Tuesday in November meeting. This one will be November 5th. Council, our work session, and council meeting due to Election Day. Questions, comments, changes on the consent agenda? Entertain a motion that we approve the items of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Awesome, thank you much. Our first discussion item is discussion on proposed amendments to section 10-14-12A, private swimming pools. Alka, is that you? Okay, great.
So we've already received a little bit of a rundown of, wanting to change the setbacks for pools. Staff agrees with that. Per the last discussion with Planning Commission, I also recommended possibly going more towards 6 to 7 feet for the setback, just to avoid just kind of wasting that space there. And so all property owners can have the most use out of their property. So right now, it's not part of our code, but whenever there's a pool, there has to be some sort of fencing or barrier around the pool, so, which has to be, I think, a minimum of 3 feet from the edge of the pool. So if you think about it, then you have the pool, you have 3 feet, then some sort of like fencing specific for the pool, and then you would have 3 to 4 feet, depending if you're looking at 6 to 7 feet of a setback from the pool to the property line. And I think that's enough room for people to get around it and to still be able to somewhat use that space. Yeah, like I think a hallway at minimum is about 3 feet. So that would be enough room for them to maneuver around, and it can still have enough space and enough use out of their property. And yeah, they've already mentioned all the other surrounding cities do have a smaller setback than the 15 that we have. I did go back and listen to the recording from, I believe it's 2021 when this was last discussed, and I couldn't find anything that, or any discussion for the 15 feet. There was somewhat of a discussion for the 10 feet, but nothing for 15.
Lisa, do you have recollection of that, or remember why that might have been the case? Oh,
Oh.
Can I share? I didn't remember, so I went back and listened. So from the very beginning, Planner Mark Vlasic at that time had put 15 feet in for the side yard setbacks. I don't remember the reason for that. I kind of think that at that time, Ogden City may have been 15, but I don't know where he got that from. That all being said, it remained 15 feet through all of the discussions. And then they wanted to have one more last discussion, and that's at the meeting that Alika was referring to, and to talk about the specific setbacks. And at the end of the meeting, they just decided to keep it all the same. So that's kind of where it got left, and then it came to you, and you approved it as what was recommended.
okay. Al, we talked to the process of changing this. If the council decides to change this, what's the process and the timeline for that?
For the code to be,
To move it from 15 to 6, 7, whatever is decided?
I don't know how long it would be. Yeah, I think that would be more
Is that a,
technical question.
So traditionally, what we have been doing is, like tonight, we bring it for discussion, and then if you're ready to go ahead and pass it, you instruct staff to put it on as an ordinance to be voted on at the next meeting.
But how long would it take to be updated?
to the next
I
meeting?
can update it the next day. I mean, it takes effect immediately, but actually in the code, since now we do it ourselves the day after the meeting, I can have it changed on our online code.
Councilmember Stewart?
I just wasn't clear
Yeah.
if the recommendation coming from the planning commission was 6 feet or
Mhm.
10 feet.
It's 6 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, in their motion, yeah, that's what they wanted, is 6 feet, and that was unanimous.
Okay, just the information in our packet in blue is showing it in 10 feet.
Yeah, that's what the applicant put in their application, to
I
change
see.
from the 15 to the 10 feet, kind of match the rear setback. But during discussion and the actual motion actually said 6 feet.
I see.
Mhm.
Thanks.
May I ask, why 6 to 10? Is there a safety issue there? There's nothing that has to do with that?
No, that's just so they get the most use out of their yard.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mayor,
Please.
one of the, I'm going to jump on City Manager Dixon's math bandwagon.
That's scary.
If you take what we were given,
Yeah.
the average of our neighboring cities is 6.75 feet, but the mode, or the number that occurs most often, is 5 feet.
Mhm.
I think 6 is more than sufficient to meet those requirements, and I think it provides our residents an opportunity to use more of their backyard more effectively.
Mhm.
So I would recommend, it's 10 feet in the ordinance that was presented for us, but I think we should do 6 feet and go with the planning commission. Just my thought.
Okay, I'm seeing at least 3 nods, so direct staff to put that on an ordinance ready for adoption at our next meeting, which, boy,
In November.
November
November 19th.
19th?
Mhm.
Okay, is that okay?
Okay.
Sorry, Holden, it won't be till November 19th, but you've waited this long,
I can't do the whole November anyway.
Yeah.
so, but, okay.
Unless he has a heated pool.
All right, any discussion on item A there? Okay, move on. Item B, discussion recommendation on proposed amendments to section 10-23-5, landscape design standards, particularly park strips. Ally?
Yeah, so this is just very small change. It's essentially adding 2 sentences, basically saying, hey, cement is not appropriate to put in the park strip if you want to take out the grass that's there. That request came from Public Works, if I'm not wrong, just to provide some clarity. for the residents. I'm sure they get a lot of questions, and even I've gotten a couple, like, hey, can we put in cement? That would cause some drainage issues. And so basically, those two sentences are saying, hey, this is what would be appropriate, and then this isn't appropriate. So it's just adding a little bit more clarity for people.
Okay. Any questions on that? Councilor Howe?
What drainage issues and stuff are caused by putting non-permeable on a park strip? If the gutters, if we're a curbed city anyways, what, anybody know?
The water meters are in there.
But
Yeah, I was
water
gonna
meters we
say,
put in those boxes.
Yeah, I think it's more out of the cost to restore what's there if our guys need to go in and do work within the public right-of-way. It's a lot more costly to have to tear someone's concrete out. Sometimes it'll be stamped concrete. There are some park strips that currently have it, and they'll be grandfathered in. But I know it came up. We get calls occasionally. I know I talked to someone not too many months ago that said, hey, can I put concrete in my park strip? And so I think it's probably, and John isn't here, but I think it's probably more a concern for cost to us when we have to do work on our
And difficulty,
utilities.
that's a lot different than
And difficulty.
digging through someone's rocks or someone's.
Right.
Yeah, and there may be utility lines there that they may need to access too.
Well, it's all
Okay.
utilities too, right? It's not
Right,
just
yeah.
the city. It's,
Right.
that's the public right-of-way, so we have franchise agreements with how
Right.
many different companies that have utility infrastructure in the park strips, so.
But so like water meters and stuff that are in there, I had to replace my line from that to my home, and they did it obviously subterraneously, or whatever, if that is a word, but.
It is now.
It is now. But I'm curious if, and when they did that, they had to mark the gas line, which is under part of my west driveway, which is under concrete anyways, so I don't know if that necessarily makes sense. I'll voice my opinion now, I'm not in favor of this. I think a resident should be allowed to put whatever they want there as long as it's aesthetically pleasing, and like you said, stamped concrete now looks like pavers and bricks, and it may not be as cheap to replace, but sometimes looks better and lasts longer.
Is there an issue with, like, that puts more water in our storm drains instead of going into the ground? Is there aquifer issues? I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, it would create more runoff for a storm, but I don't know that. There'd probably have to be a pretty significant number of residents in one area that did that to really cause a challenge. I do think mostly in a few, I don't know, it's been a couple years ago now, when Weber Basin's water line burst up on Madison. There was a resident there that had some special concrete, and Weber Basin had to restore it, but it took months and months because they couldn't find concrete workers to do that special. It had like exposed aggregate, and that's the kind of stuff we're trying to prevent. That's very costly for the city because we have an obligation to restore it to pre-project conditions, and so the more money we're allowing residents to put in an impervious surface, the more it'll cost us when we have to go tear it out.
I just think to that point that, again, it's the residents' property, even though we have a right-of-way there, and I just don't think we should be telling the residents what to do with their property.
It's not their property, though.
It's not.
It's city
Yeah,
property.
I would respectfully
Well-
disagree. The city's right-of-way, publicly owned property, is generally a
We've had this
foot-high
discussion
sidewalk.
with my sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say generally
Yeah.
because in some of the older neighborhoods, the parcel lines, and it's realtors know this very well. I mean, it's a mess. It just is a mess.
Mayor, my issue is, I'm all for green space, and we keep getting rid of green space. We're gonna have the hottest planet on the world here.
What about the question of trees? Do they have to check with the city of the type of trees they put in the park strip then?
Yes.
Yes,
Because
and
that can
also,
cause some havoc with the cement and the sidewalks and that. So they check with the city on that.
Supposed to.
Yes, they're supposed to check for if they're planting trees and if they're taking a tree out.
Okay.
You good?
Perhaps, would it be beneficial to have John here for the next council meeting?
Danielle's on it. Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be good information. I don't know if that's going to change anybody's mind.
Oh, he's right there.
Bring,
He's
can I
coming.
Look at that.
bring something up?
To him.
Councilmember
So-
Stewart.
Just a commentary. For example, I had a neighbor that wanted to put in a sidewalk from their front door to the street. And they were told, you can't put it the last 4 feet because that goes over the park strip. Well, there's no sidewalk. They don't have a driveway on that side of the house. Their sidewalk, their drive goes onto 36th Street. So they didn't want people to get out of the car on 36th Street and walk all the way around on the street and then walk in the front with no sidewalk. So they wanted to put in a sidewalk from the curb to their house, and they were told you can't put it the last 4 feet because you can't have concrete there. Which, as the homeowner, it feels like that's excessively restrictive, telling me that I can't have a sidewalk to my, I don't
Stepping
know, just-
stones. I don't know.
You know, from a public works standpoint, we don't like it, because if you need to fix something, or they need to do it, they're not gonna replace it. You know, if we have a main break, your meter's under there, or whatever, I'm gonna rip the concrete out, put grass, or not grass, just some dirt back in, and it makes it very restrictive for that easement in the utilities, not only for us, but for anybody doing work in that 4-foot easement there. It is very, you know, you put something permanent, you can't get it done, it makes it very restrictive for what goes in there, and that's, I don't think we can control, it's a public easement.
And that's the main purpose for the no concrete,
Right.
not a impervious
Runoff or,
surface.
is there runoff issues? The mayor asked that earlier. Is there runoff issues where it
Potentially could be.
puts money, or?
You know, you used to have, right here, the mayor's old house used to have curb and gutter right back to it. We went to your park strip because of, you know, movement issues for people moving in that. So you've got somewhere to put snow too. There also, you know, for your snow removal, that's another issue, you're blocking that off too.
And Mayor, if I could just jump in again, because especially with all the fiber companies coming through town, we've had these complaints quite a bit this past year, because it does boil down to the property owner's understanding of what their property is and what is public right-of-way. And in all of these cases, I'm sure that's the difference, is we're not telling them you can't put a sidewalk on your property. We're telling you, once it hits the publicly owned right-of-way, we won't allow it, because that gets in our way of doing the public's work in our publicly owned right-of-way. And that's a very hard conversation to have. I've had multiple conversations, right, as I'm sure you have, just because people don't understand where their property line ends and where the public right-of-way exists. And it's tough. So this ordinance is talking about what can be installed within the publicly owned right-of-way, not on a person's property. It might be in front of their property or to the side of their property, but our ordinance is only controlling what can be installed in the publicly owned right-of-way.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, please. Always.
So both Alika and I learned something with this ordinance, because it was suggested by Josh from Public Works. And we learned what a carriageway is. And a carriageway is exactly what Councilmember Stewart described. It's if you have a sidewalk to your front door from the street, the carriageway is the little part in the park strip, and it does allow cement for that, so.
That's interesting, because they were told they could not put it there.
Isn't that just in a driveway, though? Or in a carriageway?
It'd only be allowed in the carriage.
In the carriageway.
Yeah, and she's not talking about a carriageway, though. She was talking about adding a sidewalk from their front door that did not include where their cars drive.
Because the cars are perpendicular.
Right,
And this
so
was-
you can put a sidewalk to your front door, John, right?
Not
All the way
across the
up
park
there?
strip.
Not across the parking strip.
That's what the carriageway is.
Yeah, we typically don't allow it just because it's right in the park strip.
Well,
We haven't done that ever since I've been here. I
Okay.
know people have done it.
That's
I know
what I
around-
thought.
somebody just did it here the last 6 weeks.
well, so I guess the question is, do you want it or not? Because that's what,
We don't like the concrete any hard because if you have to do utility work in there, that becomes the problem. Not only us, but you get the gas company, you get anybody else doing utility work in there. They're gonna rip it out, they're not gonna put it back. They're gonna put dirt back, and then you're gonna have the people.
Wouldn't the carriageway be your driveway, though? I mean,
Yes,
Your
that's,
carriageway, you know, like what she's talking, you come out your front door, you walk out your front door, and I can walk right out to my car. Is your carriageway. Like, I come right straight out and I go right instead of, I'm not going to my driveway, I'm not going around my house. I come right out my front door and I'm going right to my carriage. I guess is where it came from, whatever your carriage may
But you still, but you say you still can't connect it all the way to the road.
Nope. There is places that is connected to the road, though, I can tell you that.
oh, I'm sure
We do
there's
not-
lots of them.
If somebody comes to my office and asks, hey, I'm gonna put this in, I'm putting a sidewalk in, we will tell them, the way we understand it, we do not allow in that carriageway. So you can go right to that point, but you cannot go there, so they'd have to either hop the grass or do whatever they're gonna do.
Stepping,
They could put a
stepping stones,
Yeah,
flags,
gravel,
the
they can do stuff like
flagstone.
that, But they can't pour concrete
Well,
on there.
currently they can,
Can't put concrete,
can,
yeah, and like,
Correct.
we have always enforced it the other way,
right.
yeah.
Because that's what we're changing right now. I mean, that's what we're talking about
We
changing.
encourage them to do like the stepping stone to the gravel, that's easier, I could, move from stepping stones, dig, do whatever I'm gonna do, put that back and try and piece it back together the best we can.
so what they're saying is that what's on there says that they can do it.
Yeah, and we would prefer not.
But that's.
Yeah, well, I'll get with you, I know, yeah, because the lady we just had the discussion, there's an individual that did it, that shouldn't have. So,
I think we talked a little earlier, that's one of the benefits of having this on as a discussion item. And then we'll bring it back for adoption, because these are good questions that we can go do some more work on and
Yeah,
get some answers to.
okay. Good, clear as. Mm-hmm.
Clear as mud. Not concrete, mud.
I do have a question on the wording on this, Lisa. On the current way it's written, it says, "No turf grasses or overhead irrigations is allowed in areas with a width less than 8 feet." So does that mean you could not currently put turf in your park strip because it's less than 8 feet? So do we need to change that so that if people want to put grass there, they can?
If we did that, we would not qualify for the Flip Your Strip program.
Oh, is that why that was in there before? Got it.
Do we still want to qualify for?
Well,
Flip Your
we're
Strip
being
program?
very limiting now because now they can't put
Yeah.
grass and they can't put concrete.
But they can put stones and mulch and other things. Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's correct, and other cities have the exact same wording. I know the first time I saw that, I was like, what? But yeah, that's how they qualify. So we're not the only ones that have that in our code.
But we can also do what we want. What three of you want to do, we can put it in.
Sure, they just wouldn't.
Yes,
Be
but our
able to put
homeowners
their
can't
street-
do what they want.
And they may not qualify for other programs as well.
Right.
True. And we've talked about that when we were on planning commission. We talked about the Flip Your Strip program, but this was way before that Flip the Strip program. I mean, maybe not way before, but the 8 feet. When did that change? Do you remember? Okay, was it?
During the drought, yeah. Which was 2020 and 21. Okay. We have direction, you feel? Bring it back? Okay, we have a few weeks. There was no public comment online, so we don't need to read any of those into that. Reports from council members. Councilmember Stevens, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. In my experience in serving here on this council and other assignments throughout my life, I come to an understanding that there are several responsibilities for the council. One of the responsibilities is develop a budget for the city. The other one is to provide quality of life for amenities that will be long-lasting. And we had 2 events this past week, Mayor, that falls into that last category. On Thursday, October 10th, we had an open house here where we saw the operations of the public works, the fire department, and the police. And it was very well attended. Our directors have planned very well with that, and Donnell had a procedure in there and organized the program very well. They had kids that were actually using the hose to put out fires. They had a makeshift house there, but also they showed how they would go in and had to extract someone from a car, and they demonstrated that. But it was very well done, and it showed the professionalism of our public works, our fire, and our police department. The other one is the ribbon cutting on October the 3rd. This skate park that we have now in our community is going to be here long past where I am. It is the amenity that we're adding to the quality of life for the citizens here, and it is very well used in that aspect there. I talked to individuals that were from Bountiful, West Haven, Farmington, and even North Ogden that came over and participated in using the skate park. I had a gentleman that was from Maryland. He was visiting some family members and relatives here, and he even had his skate park. And they said the uniqueness of the skate park is that it has different programs in the park that everyone could enjoy. The difficulty did not just single out one class of skaters or anything, but it was a park that had amenities for those using the park. One lady that lives a couple of blocks away, I says, "How do you like the skate park?" And she says, "Well, I don't really skate, but my son does." And he was 10 years old there, and he was there. And she says, when he comes over, he does not want to go home. So, Mayor, that project is a very good project for us, and I appreciate you spearheading that and being able to have that in our city. It is something that is going to add quality of life to our citizens here, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Lots of other people. You're welcome. On behalf of hundreds of people. Councilmember Howard.
I'm gonna have to disagree with the quality of and enhancement of life with the skate park. If you and I were to drop into that skate park, it may end our quality of life. Right?
Scooter.
Yeah.
You can handle a scooter.
I got a video of the mayor dropping in, so if you need it, I'll
Want
forward
my
it to you.
scooter? I borrowed
okay.
some kids' scooters, a little short, but it's all right.
No, what about John Anderson?
John didn't
No,
drop
he
in
didn't
yet.
do it?
Not yet.
When you see a cast, you'll know.
I'd be right there.
I walked into the bowl, and it was all I could do just to walk out.
No, I'd just echo what Councilmember Stevens said. I'm excited with some of the things that we've added. I'm excited with the staff that we have, and I'm gearing up for the next article. I got the email saying that I have the article. I've got it. I know exactly what is going to be with some of the comments that we've had on chimes and the skate park and other things. I have an idea of what I'm going to be writing about. So, but is it?
Thank you. Councilmember Stewart.
Thanks. I was thinking about safe routes to school today, and I'm wondering if we've engaged with the school district, specifically Birch Creek, for next year, if we're working on that, because I know that sidewalks don't come in quickly, and that we're going to have to do some probably serious sidewalk work between now and next fall. If we aren't actively engaging, could we please actively engage with the school district to make some progress on that, so we've got places that kids are going to be able to walk? I know I was listening to the Planning Commission, and there were comments about the concern that the kids were going to be walking in the middle of the street with no sidewalk, and it's already a narrow street, and there are cars parked on both sides. So I just think we need to be proactive. We need to be, please, addressing this. And then there were just a couple of things. As I was headed up 40th Street the other night, I had some bright spotlights right in my eyes that were somebody's parking light. But I'm just wondering, do we have a way to mitigate that? Who would somebody report that to if there's a concern there? Is that something that would go to the police? Would that go to the...
You can just send it to, so it's a, like someone's parking light.
So
They're shining
it's
out
like
into
they
the-
have, it's,
Yeah.
without calling them out, anyway, it's so that they have light in a
Mhm.
semi business parking lot, but it shines right into your eyes as you're driving eastward up 40th Street. And they're very bright.
You can just send it to me, we'll look into it.
An address? Okay. The same thing with, there's a fence that is it obstructs the view when you're trying to turn. So just some things like this. Send them to you. Okay, thank you.
It's code enforcement thing. There we go.
Yes, well,
Because I'll send it to Lisa.
okay, great. And then I got an email just barely about Meadows Park, and they were concerned about that we haven't put some equal time and money into that. So I know that we talked about that at our last meeting, and I just want to say thank you that we're looking that direction, and please let us get something done for them. Let's not just keep talking, let's get something done for them. And that's everything for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Smythe.
Our work session, we talked about beautification of our city, and I was thinking about it, and I think what we need to do is on our website and our newsletter, get something in there encouraging the people to make progress with this. I mean, it's their city too, and they want us to take care of all this, but I think it's an issue of, you know, what pride do you take in your land and your property, and I think that's it. Piggybacking on Mr. Doug's comment on the skate park, that was very interesting, and if I was younger, I'd be on that skateboard, I'll tell you, because it looked like so much fun. The second thing, I was hoping that the chief was here, because I wanted to thank him for helping the lame and the bent, climbing up the wall, climbing up the hill to get there. He was so gracious, and we have such a good unit there. I really appreciate the people that work for South Ogden City. We've got a good group of everything, and fire chief, management, the whole 9 yards. Utilities are just marvelous, and everybody that works in the office. I'm just pleased as punch to be part of this.
Amen. Thank you. Councilmember Howe.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to bring up, and Lisa and I talked a little bit about it before. I'd like to, and Chief's not in here anymore, have a discussion in one of our work sessions about electronic modes of transportation and bike lanes. I'd just like to get some feedback from Chief on that, so if that's okay, can we have that as a discussion item?
Scooters, motorized skateboards.
Like electronic motorcycles, these new Surons that are pretty quick, that people are riding on the streets like regular motorcycles without licenses. And I just think we should have a discussion about it and see where our ordinances fall in. I don't know what other cities are doing or how we're limiting it. I had an incident coming up 40th My son was in the passenger seat. We came to a red light, and I was the first truck to make the right-hand turn. I was going to make the right-hand turn, and I had looked already, and then looked to clear my left side. And by this time, a guy on an electric scooter had been doing probably 30 miles an hour down the sidewalk and almost hit the side of my truck. He fell off his scooter and picked it back up and continued on his way. And I was a little worried that, he fell, so I was worried about that. But anyways, I just think we need to have a discussion about that if we could, if everybody's okay with that.
See more and more.
And then second, I got an email, I don't know who else maybe got the email about keeping the dog park open a little bit later this year. Obviously, we're still in the 80s during the daytime, and I think that's something that we should look at. I don't know how we go about doing that or who makes that decision to close it down.
We can comment on that during your report. Thanks.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon.
Well, let's talk dog park first, because we did get some emails, and I can't remember the details, Mayor, maybe you do, but I went back and looked at the last time the council brought this up was maybe 2022, 2023, where the direction from the council was December 1, weather permitting. I think the challenge is our signage at the park still says November 1, even though the direction from the council to staff, and I'm looking for John to say, yeah, you're right, because December 1, so this discussion did come up, and I went down there to see what we have by way of signage, and I think that's the problem, is the signage still says November, but the direction was to staff, December 1, weather permitting. So if the weather turns bad and that there turns into be a lot of mud over there, we'll shut it down before then, but otherwise it'll be open until December 1st. So yeah, John, we probably need to look at the signage over there, because that'll maybe prevent future emails and calls. So the other items I have, community survey. It's that time of year. Annually, we put out a community survey. So we have some new staff, and there's a little bit of a learning curve that we're going to be experiencing. I'm optimistic that we'll shoot for maybe November to launch the survey. We usually keep it open for a month and a half. We try to get over 500 responses, because that's when it can statistically mean something, where we can infer the results to the general population if we get enough participation. So I guess I'm bringing that up. If you have any questions or changes, we try to keep the survey the same each year. We have tweaked it at times, just because then you have some longitudinal data to look back and analyze. But if there's something, I can maybe send last year's survey results. That way it could help you look at that and go, hey, do we need to ask a different question, or are we satisfied with the questions that we're asking? So anyway, we'll be putting in a big push community-wide to get participation in that survey. That is really helpful information as you then, as a council, after the first of the year, start to set your goals and objectives for the upcoming year moving forward. Senior centers. Things have changed yet again. I think the last time I reported, the county was going to reduce the number of senior centers they support financially to 3 or 4. And I attended a meeting with Washington Terrace where that was going to be discussed by the Weber Human Services Board, and it was really good that the Terrace invited me to go. I think it was good to see. We were the only city representatives present, and I think it really did make a difference. We had a good meeting. We listened to them. There were no decisions to be made that day. It was just a discussion item for the board. Fast forward at WACOG, there was a presentation where it sounds like they're now backpedaling and saying, we've decided maybe the first step is to pursue our federal delegation to see if we can get additional federal dollars. We haven't received additional federal dollars to support senior services for many years. Mayor, you were at WACOG, I was listening, but was that your understanding?
Yeah, 20-plus years, and then I know one of the other mayors had talked about they can offset some things with volunteers, which was a little scary, but, so, they're still trying to please everybody,
Yeah,
so there's a little delay in that.
So at this point, because we had a meeting scheduled the end of the week that you had WACOG, and it got canceled off my calendar, and I think it's because they've decided to look at something and do something different. So I will keep you posted as that moves forward.
There's about 30% of our citizens of South Ogden that participates in that senior center over there.
Nice.
So it's a high number.
On November 19th, that's our next work session. Talk to the mayor about inviting our legislators, our state legislators, and we'll spend the work session with them, talking about our concerns as a community, things that we're hearing. If any of you have items related to upcoming potential legislative issues, I guess I'm just letting you know that we're going to have an opportunity. I'm hoping, like, I haven't had any confirmations yet, but I'm hoping we can get most of them to be with us. On the safe routes to school, yes. We split the cost with the school district recently to have a traffic engineer come in. He has looked at it. He has identified, okay, for the area north of 40th, here's where the kids should funnel to, and then get them to the Madison crossing. That will identify certain sidewalk projects. The school district is aware. We may not be in a position as a city to do all that will be on that list, but we can use that plan, I should say, not list, but use that plan to then come to you as a council to start prioritizing, okay, which sidewalks do you want to start doing? So we tried to manage expectations, recognizing this older part of town does not have a lot of sidewalks on some of these roads. And that's a tremendous cost to just, hey, city, we're changing our plans, so you need to go. So we're going to have to look at all of that and decide what project we want to do first. And then we can seek some grant monies as well through Safe Routes. That would be our hope. So yes, we are working with them. We've had that communication, and we are in a position where we can start identifying those projects and applying. I'm trying to remember, we've even talked about the safe routes, and one of the school district folks had mentioned Lane, I think, Finley. I can't remember when the application process is due.
And the Wasatch Front Regional Council has some of those grants. If Marcia White was supposed to call you since WACOG.
Okay. I can reach out to Marcia.
Yeah, please.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you again. Thanks to all of the staff for the public safety night last week, and the ribbon cutting was great. It's exciting to see pickleball and skate parks. I'll tell you, they're busy places, and it's nice that we have some of those amenities as a city. Talking to some of the county leaders that were at the ribbon cutting, planted a seed about, you know what we possibly underestimated, and that's the impact on our restrooms. And that's all I said. And then the next thing out of his mouth was, you know what, that makes a lot of sense for ramp. And I say, yeah, I agree. Because it's such a regional facility. There's people from all over using that park, and I think it's a strong application for ramp support to add additional amenities because of that in this park. And so I think that's something we'll definitely look at. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, I mentioned the skate park. That was just it was an exciting day, and got some youth involved, and still very popular as we go by. Hopefully it stays that way. Volunteers that care and our police are working together on a take-back day for our unused prescription drugs. There's a banner. It's going to be at Macy's parking lot. I believe it's this Saturday. I can't remember the time, but there's a big next Saturday. All right. What's that date? Okay, thank you. I drove by and saw the big poster, so we're excited about that. That's a great event. We'll advertise that somewhat. And at the high school tomorrow, and they're trying something new. It's like a farmer's market, letting some of the students sell things they've made, and some locals, but on the driving range part from tomorrow from 3 to 6:30, there'll be some food available and some other little stalls and farmer's market type things. That will be cool. We'll also turn some Bonneville students that have to do community service through one of their classes, not the other kind of community service. So some of them cleaned up Club Heights, spent 3 hours at Club Heights on Saturday, doing some improvements there for us. Group of boys that's going to help us with our Santa parade, and so that's been fun. They come to me and say, we need a project, and I talk to staff, and we put them to work in our city, so it works out well. Otherwise, that's all I have, and entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.